Hi, and welcome to episode number 61 of Dreamers and Doers, where I interview people who follow their passion and make the world better. I think that's you, Gavin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, brother. I'm excited. We're just here by the pool in beautiful Bali.
Yeah, and if you hear a little sound in the background, that's the water of the pool
The water
running.
rushing.
Such a beautiful place. I met you here in Bali, and I was like, you did a bit of mentorship for me, helping me to build a bit better my personal brand on
hmm
Instagram. So thank you so much for this. We
Yeah,
did a
man. I saw you just like starting to do all these things after and starting to run these great
yeah.
ads. And I was like, hey, you're really nailing down who you want to speak to
Mm,
and, making sure that you're not just like speaking to everybody, which
yeah,
is what we do when we first start.
yeah.
We think everybody wants what we want, but it's just not the case.
I've definitely been there, and we'll talk about that actually in this episode about building a personal brand, about monetizing it.
Mm.
And I was saying, yeah, I met you here in Bali. And yes, since we did that video on Instagram, I had a lot of people asking me to do a podcast actually
Mm.
with you. So be ready for some good knowledge bombs.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, I hope in this episode I can share some things that will allow people to just have more control over their own life, more freedom in their own
Mm,
life, feel more empowered within
mm,
themselves, and be able to attract more of the type of people they want around them,
yeah.
and not have this kind of personality or this way of being
Mm,
that's kind of repelling people. You know what I mean?
mm,
Because
mm,
I know I was that at some points in my life, and just allow you to achieve more
mm,
and not fail as much and not make as many of the mistakes and go through as
yeah.
much trial and error. So if anyone who's listening throughout this episode, I'm going to really be touching on all of those points to just allow you to live that more holistic life so you can do what you want, when you want, with who you
Mhm,
want, however much you want, create the income you want while also
mm.
making a positive impact in other people's lives.
Sounds good.
hmm
So we'll start as usual with my guest story. So if you can give a bit of background
hmm
about yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because all of us could go for days on our story. We kind of have to pick a story for people. What's the best
Mm,
marketing angle?
mm,
It's like because like how do you speak for 2 hours on your story? You can go over so many things. So I think since your audience is really into this freedom, I'll start off when I really started getting into this. And I was working every $15 an hour job you can
mhm,
imagine, right? And you just had no idea what was possible. I'd never read a personal development book, and this was when I was about like 24 years old. I'm
mhm,
33 now. I never had done any of that
mhm,
before. And I remember walking down the street one day, and I'd been smoking a bunch of weed, and I was trying to figure out my life. And this guy was in the back lane. I'd met him the year before. He was lifting tires and hitting things with sledgehammers. And he was like, "You want to work out with me?" And 2 weeks before, I'd had this near-death experience where I was climbing this cliff with some friends, and we were all drinking. And I was like, I'm gonna climb back down, and everyone else is like, we're gonna walk around. That's stupid to climb back
mm,
down that. And I end up climbing back down. My foot slipped. I'm upside down. I'm going towards the ground. I know I was dying. I know, like this is it. And then two tree branches, like these little branches out of the cliff, caught both my shoulders, and my shoulder was dislocated. I was sitting upside down, looking up. My friends like looking at me in horror, like what the heck? And then I looked around. There was like no other tree branches on this cliff. Like, what the
mm,
heck? How am I alive? I remember climbing down and just thinking to myself, like, wow, I've been wasting my life. I've been not pursuing my passions. I have been just drinking and doing drugs and
mm,
really wasting my life. Did I have any purpose? Is anything I'm doing actually matter? And I just, with all these questions started to come up, it was one of those shifting moments. And a lot of times we need that moment that shocks us and wakes us up from our like unconscious zombie like state that we just
mhm,
keep repeating.
mhm,
And that was one of those moments for me. That now, does that mean I just changed out of nowhere? No, of course not. We have habits
mm,
and we have friends and we have this and we have lots of things, but it really seeded in
mm,
my mind like I need to do something different. And then 2 weeks later, I meet this guy, and I'm in jeans and I'm in full clothes. Like, should I work out right now? Like, this sounds crazy, but since that happened, I'm like, fine, I'm gonna start hitting stuff with sledgehammer. So I end up drenched in sweat by the end of this in jeans. Just doing something out of the normal, out of that normal
yeah.
routine. And this was the beginning of a mentorship relationship. And he started teaching me how to get in shape and how to, build my muscle, which then led me to like going and becoming obsessed with working out, but realizing like, wow, there's a cause and effect relationship in this universe. I can have a goal and I can reach that goal. And I started to get in really good shape and build my body, which started to build my confidence.
Yeah.
And then I was offered a network marketing opportunity. Hey, come to this meeting. I'm getting together with some sharp people, right? The whole network marketing pitch. So I go to this meeting, no clue what network marketing is. By the end of the meeting, I'm like, here's my money. Like, I want to get rich.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like it. So I sign up on the
They
spot.
have good marketing.
Great marketing, sold the dream, right? This is the whole mindset behind it. I get in this, and then what starts happening is, people hand me this guy hands me this drive with all these audiobooks on it. And I start putting it in my car and listening to these audiobooks. And I'm like, oh my God, like, how have I not been ever given this information before? Like, I couldn't believe it. Like Brian Tracy and Tony Robbins and all these guys. And I was like, I could just feel the truth in the information. Or some people might listen to the same thing and say this is a bunch of BS. I could feel the truth. Like, there's so much truth here. There's so much science here. This just makes sense. So I was listening to audiobook after audiobook after audiobook. And just trying to like increase my level of awareness. Basically, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I just knew that there was something about this path. And then I was having a hard time prospecting people and figuring out how to make this network marketing thing work. So I start going online and go on YouTube, and I find this video by Cesar Rodriguez called Headhunting. And in this, he starts talking about you just have to go and you got to say this and do this and blah, blah, blah. So the next day I put on a suit and I get this iPad and I'm walking in and out of these cell phone stores and places in the mall. And I'm like, who's the best salesperson here? And then I'm like, you over here now, like, let me talk to you. It was like insane. Now when I look at it, like how crazy it was. But when you don't know what's not possible and you think it's normal, you do it. All as humans do whatever we think is like the social norm. It's hard for us to step. So I just thought this was normal. He talked about it like it was normal. So I'm doing this, and then I'm like talking to the guy. I'm like, you're the type of person that's good with keeping appointments, right? Like after he's qualifying himself to me. He's like, yeah. I would get 9 out of 10 people showing up because of this script that I learned from him. Whereas before I was getting 3 out of 10. And I'm like, oh my God. I remember walking into my house that day or into my apartment, and I was like, I'm going to be successful. If I can find like 100 of these types of things, there's no way that I can't succeed in life, because there's like science in this reality. Like there's proven laws of psychology. There's proven laws of the universe. I was like, if I can figure this stuff out, I'm going to be like successful. I just knew it. And that was like a big game changer. However, I started recruiting all these people and doing this. And then I started to be like, man, this network marketing thing, it just doesn't resonate with me. There's something off. I feel like I'm not selling the best product. They could get a better product somewhere else. Like that's what I was feeling. So I start looking online again for like different stuff, and I actually end up, sending Caesar a testimonial video after I'm looking up different things, and he sends me back a message, and he's like, "Man, just give me a call on my personal number. Like no one ever just sends testimonial videos without you asking, He's like, it's really rare. People think all these people are getting all these testimonials from people, not realizing that most of the time they're asked for. So if you become, like if anyone listening right now, if you actually just get in the habit of sending your favorite people testimonials that have made an impact in your life, you actually can build your network very fast. So I learned that in this situation. But he ends up, I get on a call with him for like 45 minutes. This guy's got like 100,000 YouTube subscribers. This is like 7 or 8 years ago, which is a long time. And I end up going and flying down to Dallas to an event that he says, come down to this internet marketing event. I go down there and I meet all these like millionaire internet marketers, and it's just the craziest experience for me because I don't know anything about this stuff. And I was like, my eyes were opened up to a whole new world of like what's possible. These people talking about how they're traveling around the world, they're doing whatever they want, they're impacting all these people, and I was just like, what is this? Like, this is completely different than that like in one location kind of like network marketing thing that I was doing, and this like total freedom like that I'm watching these people go through. And I was like, this is unbelievable. And then I ended up searching a video called Create Your Perfect Day, or just going through YouTube, and it was Brian Swan, and he just shows like how him and his family have been traveling the world for 4 years, and they've just been like they quit their corporate jobs and they're doing this a completely different way of living life because they never wanted their child to go through daycare. And now Hanale is like 12 years old, 6-figure fashion business, and I actually am like really good friends with the whole family, which is crazy if you think about it, because I had written down my perfect day after I watched this, 6 pages of what I wanted my life to look like, and my life mirrors that now, but better, because as you evolve, you want like a different level of life, and that doesn't mean luxury. Like that can mean luxury, but it just means a different level of gratitude and a different level of the type of people you surround yourself with, and the things you want to experience and that kind of impact that you want to have. So that's how it went. But in between that, I had 4 to 5 years of just depression, anxiety. I failed like at least like 11 businesses trying this out. I was never able to admit when I failed, so I'd always try to do it on my own and isolate myself more, because I couldn't just go and admit that I was like failing and get help. And I just kept going through this cycle, and then I would lose all my money, and then because I lost all my money, I wouldn't be able to spend money on the advertising, and then one thing would work and then something would happen to it and I would be down and out again. And it was this whole cycle throughout the whole time. I always knew I would be able to figure it out, but it was just like such dark times, like so many times looking for change in my couch cushions, being evicted from my apartment, girlfriend leaving me, like everyone, like my friends being like, you're insane, like what's wrong with you, seeing the pain in me, parents being like, go back to school, like you're never gonna like win at this, and it's not even their fault at all. Like they're looking at someone just failing, it looks painful, like they want to remove your suffering, but they also can't see the intuition that you have, that you're gonna battle through it and get there. So for anybody listening right now, there's 2 sides to learn from this. One is, if you're gonna get there, you will get there. The problem is you have to also within that change things along the way. You can't keep doing the same thing expecting the results to change. You have to optimize and like reflect and like learn from your mistakes and do something that's going to work better. So that's like a huge piece to it. And then the other thing is actually finding people who have been there and done that. Like collapse your time frames. Like Richard Dawkins says, like survival machines that learn through simulation are always a step ahead of those that only learn through trial and error. And most of evolution, all we did was learn through trial and error. But now we have books passed on. We don't just have the coding in our DNA that's passed on, which is like every bird or every other animal. They just have the coding that was passed on. So it's like all unconscious that they just do these things automatically. As humans, we can have information passed on, which means you can go to the best knowledge and the best mentors, and you can become in the top 1% of intelligent people on the planet in a very short period of time if you learn from the right people. But if you learn and model the wrong people, you're basically like, just over a caveman, So we can be a caveman, and me and you could be the exact same people, but we could be born in the jungle and we wouldn't know anything that we know right now, right? And we'd be basically a caveman. But since we have this information passed on from generation, and now we're learning all the information that's happening now, the knowledge and the wisdom, it allows us to go into hyper speed.
Yeah, there's so much good knowledge here. I really like how you talked briefly about learning from the right people, but it's true. A lot of people tell me, oh, my mom thinks this, or this friend thinks this, but have they ever, if you want to do a business, for example, have they ever built a business?
Yes.
Or if it's more life choices in general, are they happy? Because you want to choose wisely who you take your advice from.
Oh, it's my most important thing. There's a test called Hexaco, like personality test, and there's a trait in that called conscientiousness. And this is the highest predictor of success in life.
Okay.
And when I say that
how's it called again?
Hexaco is the personality test. And conscientiousness is the highest level of people who succeed in life. And when I say that, like, I mean this in like all sorts of areas, like sports, business, whatever it is, like actually achieving something in life. And it comes into 4 categories. It's organization, perfectionism, diligence, which means like hard work and perseverance, and prudence, which is the most important. And if you get prudence wrong, you're screwed. And I'll break down what that is, because I'm actually not the best at the other 3, but I'm really good with prudence. And this is what most people miss out on. So what prudence is your ability to make the right decision. Now, to make the right decision, you have to have wisdom. So what is prudence? Well, let's think about it this way. You could, listen to society and listen to what the average person does to save money and become a millionaire eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to the average person's advice, maybe by the time you retire, you might have enough money to retire comfortably. But you also might have spent your whole life wasting it on something you didn't want to do to get that, right? So prudence, if you think about it, like let's say your goal is to live where you want. Like you want to eventually live in Bahamas and retire there, right?
Yeah.
Well, why not do that in the next 2 years, right? Well, how would you do that? Well, think about it this way. That's possible for anybody to do. Anyone can do it. They just need to know the right direction to go. So let's say you want to go to Bahamas and you have this compass and society gave you this compass that you're eventually going to get there. Well, what if your goal was actually right here? If anyone watching, I'm talking about like 2 feet away from me, right next to me on my right. That's where my goal is. But I don't know where that is. So I need a compass. And society is like, okay, here's the compass. Here's your goal. And the compass is wired backwards. So I actually have to go 26,000 miles around the planet to get to my same goal. That's what most people are doing. They're learning from all the wrong things. Go to school, get a job, do this. They follow this exact same path. This is a path of the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
And it could work back then. You could have that American dream. Now, like that same path, like people can't even afford like a bachelor apartment. Because inflation has gone up so much and everything has changed so much. And now it's about being more adaptable. Now anybody can create a life on their terms if they wanted to, but they have to get the right guidance from the right people, which leads us to ontological design, which means you set up your habits build you. You set up the books you read, those books build you. You set up the environment of the people you surround yourself with, you become the average of them.
It's like you consciously design everything.
You consciously design it, but using the philosophy of the samurai warrior, which is win beforehand. So it's inevitable you'll get the life you want if you set up all the circumstances to get it. If you plant a seed in the wrong dirt, it won't grow. You take the same seed, you put it in the right fertile environment, the right light, the right soil, the right temperature, you can put all those things in place, which makes the seed inevitable to grow healthy. Human beings, we are seeds. If we plant ourselves in the right environments and we consciously set it up, it's inevitable because this universe works off very specific laws.
And a very important part of that environment that you talked about was mentorship and getting help. And that's something that really resonates with me. I feel it's something a lot of people do. That's definitely something I've done, is to start being like, I'm going to figure out everything myself. And maybe after, for me, it was probably a year and a half of like a lot of great things, but also quite a bit of loneliness and of things that I could learn faster. I turned to, okay, actually, if I want to do great things, it's a bit stupid to do too much trial and error. Why don't I just learn from the best?
Yeah. To me, I have no interest in doing trial and error I don't have to do. I'm super interested in failing forward if I have to, but if someone else has already done it, like I want to start at the top and then work my way up, like Peter Diamandis says. The information and the knowledge and the wisdom, all those trial and error and all that has already been made. Why am I going to make it? Just doesn't make sense. I don't need to spend my whole life making those same mistakes. It's like I don't need to walk back home to Canada when I can take an airplane. There are airplanes, like the metaphor, for getting to other places in life. And people like Gary Vee will say there are no shortcuts. And blah, blah. It's total BS. When I just think of a shortcut, of course there's no way to black hat and like cheat your way to the top without going to jail, right? Or you might do it for a certain period of time, but eventually you'll get caught out. But there are better ways than worse ways to do things. That's just so obvious. So when someone says there's no shortcuts, it's like, okay, you can say that, but that's just not true. Like you can learn faster. So the education system is built off rote learning, which is like memorization, regurgitation. Well, look at what Tim Ferriss has been able to do in his life. He's lived like 8 lifetimes because he uses generative learning, which is learning how to learn how to learn. Once you've learned that skill, you can learn anything rapidly. So I always think that's the most important thing to learn, which is learn how to learn. Because once you've done that, again, you can go apply it to anything. One of the ways to do that is you go to the right mentor. Like this is like a shortcut. You go to someone who's already been there. He was where you're at. Now he's where you want to be. And he shows you all the mistakes not to make and the right actions to take. It's so obvious. Like I can't grasp how somebody wouldn't be able to see that concept.
Yeah, and to me, mentors are going to be like the traditional way, like let's say someone who's going to help you build your business, for example, but also consider as mentors all these people I read books from and all these podcasts I have. So it's like different layers of mentors, some with whom I can have a direct conversation, but even if you can't afford a very an amazing mentor, you can always buy a book from Tony Robbins or from whoever you think is a great mentor.
Yeah, and I'll finish one piece of this, which is if you just look at how we used to live as human beings, in the tribe, the men would all like have a certain man they looked up to, you know, maybe the strongest hunter, the guy who is like the most wise, whatever it is. And whoever those people were in these areas, all the children would learn from, because we didn't live the same amount of time we lived then. We needed to learn as much as we could from our mentors as fast as possible so we could keep our tribe alive, so we could take care of the tribe. We needed to build into that strong, we needed to become the best versions of ourselves as fast as we could. So we used mentors. Now we get thrown into this assembly line education, which was built for the Industrial Revolution to pump out basically robots to do the jobs, which was fine for that time. If you were at the top, you really wanted people just in all those things, so everyone worked and made the system, part of the machine, right? Rage Against the Machine was a band created to rage against that machine. Now, if you really were to like decode what's happening now, we're all learning from the wrong people. Like all of your school teachers, were these all people you looked up to and truly wanted to be? Some people maybe, if you wanted to be a school teacher, but overall, I want to learn from someone who has the life I want, who has the knowledge I want, who has like the network I want, who has. So why would I learn from that person? It's like deep. It's bad programming for many of us. So now, why this is creating such a huge opportunity for people who want to be teachers, mentors, whatever. It's like now, if you learn something, because you can learn anything with the internet. You can learn anything from mentors. Now when you gain skills, you can also become the teacher and become the mentor. And this has become going to be one of the biggest industries. By 2025, it's going to be a $240 billion industry. Online education and coaching and mentorship, all of that. Right now it's a $110 billion industry. So that's going to double in the next 6 years. Why? Because the education system is broken. Like we're going through a revolution right now. And you know, everything's going online. Everything's changing exponentially. People are like, what do I do? Well, like Darwin said, you have to be the most adaptable to change. How do you do that? You find people who are already learning these things so you can learn from them, so you can collapse time. If you just expect the job market to just come back, no, automation's taking that over. Amazon's going to crush all brick and mortar. Like it's just going to change so fast. The 9-to-5 apocalypse we talk about, right? It's like 9-to-5 is not going to be what it used to be, and it's going to continue this way. So we have to become very, very adaptable. Fastest way is to get mentors.
And so you talked about making it a business. So
yeah, well, if you look at personal branding now, like we have social media, we have these platforms to reach our target audience.
So let's say, I have some knowledge.
Yes.
I'm like, people would benefit from me sharing that knowledge. How would you share that and monetize that if I want to build my life around it?
Yeah, this is like what I love to do so much because first off, I think it's super important for someone to decode who they are. So I have like 5 different things. You don't have to do all these, but you can do Strength Finders 2.0 test. Figure out what your strengths, gifts, and talents are. Even if you have results in something, you might not be like the best teacher at it. Who knows? 16personality.com. You can do the Hexaco personality test. Then you can do the Ikigai, so you can know really what's going to fulfill you, right? You can also do like the Dark Triad to understand a little bit more about yourself. But if you do these, you really start to see yourself. Peter Drucker has a book called Managing Oneself. And I truly believe the number one thing all of us have to do is start decoding our strengths, gifts, and talents. Because then we know what we're going to do and perform best at in life. So in that book, he breaks down like, how do you perform? How do you learn best? What are your values? How do you want to contribute? And then you start to align with that with your strengths, gifts, talents. This seems so obvious, and this should be something that we do within school, but we don't. So everyone just gets pumped out. And like Einstein said, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will grow up its entire life believing it's stupid. So that's what's happening. So first you do that. Then you're going to figure out like, okay, that's my strengths, gifts, talents. What am I good at that I can help someone with? What have I gotten results in? And then you want to build your core influence, which means how can you be that especially if you want a life around your passions and your purpose. If you will go to my social media, like I'm traveling around, I'm meeting the right people, I'm building online business, I'm doing all the things that my ideal customer wants, and I'm teaching on my terms. And what I mean by that is I get to teach what I want to the type of people that I want to teach, and I get to change so many people's lives while fighting against the system and having purpose and mission in my life because I've built myself to that level. I'm not saying anyone should just out of nowhere start just teaching, but there's a lot of people that have tons of different skills, and they can make a great income teaching this, living anywhere in the world. And for me, by them not doing it, that's like, it's almost like rude to all the people that could be benefiting from their knowledge and wisdom. So now it's about learning, how do you leverage social media and how do you leverage your brand and attract those people, which also anybody can do. Now with Facebook and Instagram and how they're set up, you can actually target all the type of people that would love your stuff. And you can do it through ads if you want. I really believe in that as like a model. But overall, there's so many ways that can be done. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and you can attract these people. And I want people to really understand this one concept, and I've been trying to get people to really realize this. You can do something which I call like Android earning, which means you can create a video or a video course one time, and you can put that in front of people thousands of times while you're doing everything else. So you now have this leverage to create this amazing content and get it out in the world and have a global impact while you're working on something else. And people can't, that's a hard thing to get your mind around, that you could be exponential. You yourself, you can have an Android working for you and a course working for you, and it can sell for you over and over and over again. There's very little overhead, and it gives you massive impact. It's about value, not about time for dollars. So you can actually, like, if someone can like really take in that concept, that you don't go to a doctor so you can spend 8 hours with them. You want your problem solved. So what if you can be that for the people who are looking for your knowledge and wisdom? And you can get them that result as quick as possible. You're changing their life while getting paid a lot. And then you can scale that because it's digital. Super powerful.
I had on this podcast twice, actually, a very good friend of mine. He did courses on Udemy. And that's where you can see he leverages digital, because he did a 45-hour course that honestly,
45-hour course,
which is honestly like a training like you would have at a university to become a data scientist in machine learning. But he sells it for, it depends on the countries, but sometimes as low as $20. But he makes millions out of it because he sold to hundreds of thousands. And
what that's a big win-win.
Machine learning.
Oh, wow.
Artificial intelligence. He has a few.
And see, this is where I feel everything is going to change, because if you have a skill and it's better than what university is doing, and you can teach people faster, let's say you're teaching coding or you're teaching whatever it is, because things are changing so fast. People want your knowledge. They want your wisdom. Like, I don't care if someone has a degree. I want the person who has the most knowledge. Facebook, all these big companies, they're not hiring people because they have a degree. They're hiring people who get the best results. The world is changing. It's not just about that credential on paper. It's about what result can you get in the world.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I have a question on personal brand. How do you build a personal brand?
Well, first off, your personal brand is you. It's you, Inc. Everybody, every single person has a personal brand. There's no one who's on social media that doesn't have a personal brand. There's nobody in life that doesn't have a personal brand. Personal brand is just what people think about you. Like, so it's your responsibility to use perception management, meaning how do you want people to perceive you? Hopefully, you want people to perceive you who you are, and hopefully you're working on yourself and developing yourself into the type of person you want people to like you for. You know, and then you're attracting the ideal people into your life. So let me explain with my personal brand. I don't want to build a personal brand around something that I'm not, which means I'm going to swear sometimes. I'm going to be a little crazy sometimes. I'm going to show some things that some people are going to be like, I don't want to follow this guy for. Great. Perfect. My personal brand is a radar for my ideal friends, my ideal clients, my ideal mentors, women, like everything, because it's who I am. So you don't set it up as like, I'm going to look the coolest that I can. you can do that if you want. But overall, like if you watch my stories, I just share my life and I share what I'm doing. I go to the gym. I'm eating good foods. I'm hanging out with awesome people. I'm being interviewed on podcasts like this. I'm building my business. I'm traveling. This is what I'm doing in my life. Some people might be like, well, I'm not doing all those things. So what's my personal? Start doing those things.
Yeah.
Start building. It's actually, if you think about it, it's an incentive to build yourself into the best version.
That's so interesting.
So build that
me
core
a lot.
influence.
I used almost my personal brand to make me accountable to become the person I wanted to become.
Sure. Why not? We're all doing that anyways. Like this is the biggest thing for people to get over is all like the taboos, right? It's like, of course someone buys a Rolex because of what someone's going to look at them for. Of course they buy the Lamborghini for the same reason. Why can't we just start admitting this stuff? I like when Conor McGregor, was late for one of his press conferences, and he's like, "Yeah, sorry, I don't wear this watch to tell the time." He's like, "Oh, this is like not for that." So he's at least able to admit that we all wear certain clothes and do certain things for social status or to align with whoever we believe we are.
That's what I love when I talk to you about personal branding is that you're very open with it, like that you're playing the game of marketing, for example, that people care about status, for example, and I think that's
of course, but then I also have the
authenticity.
same conversation with people, which is like I don't wear these watches. My e-commerce business went from 0 to 3 million last year, and I'm building all these different things, but that's not my value.
Yeah,
I don't gain a ton of value just from that, but I know it's how it is, and I don't wear shoes most of the time here in Bali. I would rather, I'd rather not have a Lamborghini and be able to play on the beach at night like football because that's what resonates with me. But I still have this beautiful villa here and have people. So of course, I understand what human beings and their psychology is going through.
Yeah,
and I know who my audience is. My audience wants this. Why would I do the Lamborghinis and attract those people and hang out with those? I have nothing wrong with that. Do what you want. But that's not my thing. So I want to attract more people who are like, want to talk about the universe and consciousness and other things, want to make an impact. If Leo was just here, he's got this huge water project and I'm helping him market this water project. It's going to be like huge, like world-changing thing. I love how I've like been learning marketing so I can apply that to these missions.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And so just to go back on, can I ask you about, so you talked about people around you, maybe your parents didn't understand what you were doing. I feel that there's a bit of a generational gap sometimes.
For sure.
Was it like, doesn't have to be personal, but in general, did you feel like there was maybe judgment, or maybe not judgment, but
I think
fear?
I think a lot of us create our own judgment because we're not able to understand their point of view. So I don't blame other people anymore on how they looked at me. It's my own responsibility to be able to understand that they don't necessarily understand how I understand. We're all different personality types. If you look at mine, I'm an ENTP on 16 personalities. There's also someone who is an ISFJ, who is the exact opposite in everything to me, So if you start to look at that, you realize there's someone who wants the exact opposite of everything that you want in this world. There's people who think that this is what achievement is and this is what success is. You ask 6 people what success means to them, all of them will give you a different response.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah, so it's very important for us to understand that everyone's different, everyone feels different. I wish I dealt with it completely different back then. Back then I fought against all of it and was like, I'm doing this, and it just like built our relationship apart where, a lot of what I did was like stupid in and of itself. A lot of the things they said were right. There was a lot of great advice that I got from my parents that I rejected. Some of it wasn't great advice. But overall, like, you have to do you. You have to realize, like Gary Vee talks about this all the time, like, if it resonates with you and that's what you have to do, don't let your parents force you to go into engineering if you want to be an entrepreneur. Like, I get that. And a lot of people are going to do it anyways because they don't want to, like, their parents to be mad at them. I wouldn't be able to deal with that. Like, I'm going to do my thing regardless, but I would be able to tell my parents, like, listen, you might be right about this. and you might be wrong, but I have to do this. I only live once, and I have to do this for myself, and I hope you respect it. If you don't, I'm doing it anyways. If this grows away our part of relationship, I just want you to know I love you and I appreciate you. I respect you. You're great. I know you want the best for me, but you might also just want to look cool in front of your friends. You know, you might actually just like have this program. So like I would have just as much a truthful conversation as possible without fighting them and saying you're wrong, you're this. They're right in their subjective belief.
Yeah, and I find usually when you explain from the heart like this, it becomes really hard because your parents want you to be happy, but sometimes they're worried out of love.
Most people, it doesn't matter what age you are, don't study this stuff. You can't blame them for not knowing the psychology. You can't blame someone for having this subjective belief of what's best for you. They haven't gone deeper with it. So you have to just realize that they are there, and that's okay. And they're probably never going to get to your level of understanding, and just realize that. But just also understand that like they're probably not doing it because they want to hurt you. They're probably doing it because they actually think you're in trouble. They actually think you're going down the wrong path.
That's such a good point. If you want to, I think in general, if you want to live your best life, right? We've read a lot of books from successful people. You want to follow your own alignment, kind of your path to what you know you should do, and on that path you'll get people who disagree with you, people who judge you, but to me it's kind of a test. It's like, are you really serious about this? And you want to keep going in face of that adversity, I'd say.
Totally.
But when you do a personal brand, you make it even more clear because you state what your values are. And I guess it can be a bit confronting for people.
This is a very important piece of it. And this has changed my life so much in the last 2 years, which is like radical honesty. This maybe or may not be for the podcast. I don't know, but I've dated like multiple different women over the past 2 years, and I'm totally okay with being more like polyamorous at this point in my life. And some people don't agree with that. Some people do. But my number one value within this is truth. So every woman I'm with, I let them know exactly my intentions, who I am, that I date multiple women. And I've never had better relationships in my life. Because what I've realized is almost all men lie. Almost all people lie to each other because they just want to feel good. They don't want any confrontation. They hide so much stuff because they don't want to say, I'm attracted to that woman, I like this, I like that. It's human. We all have that. It's within us automatically. If you see someone on the street that you're trying, you just are. And to just pretend that doesn't exist is not being honest. So I've been extremely honest with everyone I've been with, and I haven't had any drama, and I've had deeper relationships, and I've had no mask relationships where people completely open. I also believe that within social media. Be you, like unapologetically. Don't be crazy. Don't start pouring blood all over yourself if that's what you like to do in your spare time. That's not going to go over well. But at the same time, very much you have to like be very vulnerable in who you are and have your values like a line in the sand. These are my values. This is what I stand for. Here's who I want to attract. Here's what I don't stand for. Here's what I stand against. Here aren't my values. Be open to change your mind if someone comes around with better knowledge. But overall, you have to be solid in your values, your mission, your purpose. Like that is magnetic. That is charismatic. You don't have to be Tony Robbins type speaker. If you're that type of person, you're more calm. You can still feel it. That every time you speak, it comes from a place of power.
Well, for example, Eckhart Tolle would be a very different type.
Sure, but like again, he has his thing,
And so for someone who's kind of thinking they're not inspiring enough to have a personal brand, like they would say, oh, yeah, Gavin, like all these things, or you have that background, but like for me, it wouldn't work. What would you say to
I think everybody's got their tribe. So I'm going to attract a totally different type of person than they would attract. So find out who your tribe is. Like, I have better conversations.
How do you find your tribe?
So I was just going to say this. Like back in the day, if you were a stamp collector, you might be the only stamp collector in your neighborhood. You're kind of an outcast. Now you can go to a stamp collector Facebook group or forum, and you can find your tribe. Maybe you teach people how to find the best stamps. I don't know what it is, but if you speak the knowledge that they really want and like you come at it from an angle that resonates, you can be the number one stamp course seller, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so our audiences are all around. Just look at like fishing, right? If you want to go fish in a certain place to get a certain type of fish, well, you go where those fish already are. If you want to catch that fish, you put the bait that they actually want on the end. You don't go to the wrong lake with the wrong bait. But that's what people do in marketing and business, thinking it's just going to work. Everything can be found now. So it's not like this like super crazy difficult thing. Find out what your niche is, who you want to serve, find out where they are. What is it that they want? Not what do you want them to want. Survey them. What do you guys want? What are you looking for? What would you pay money for? Okay, I'm going to create that. Then you create it and you sell it. It's not like this big like crazy process.
Yeah.
So and anyone can do that. I would be a terrible stamp collector guy, you know? I'd probably come across like a total weirdo for that, and they're probably much more introverted and much more detail, or I'm so macro and in the big vision, you know? So I wouldn't resonate.
Yeah. So you'd find your tribe this way, then start to communicate about, giving value, sharing your values, and then if you have people who follow what you're doing, see how you can serve them and start from there.
Yeah, like build your tribe around who you are and what you love, and go out and find those people and share that message and share your stories and share what they're not willing to share, and there you go. Like if you look at why Gary Vee and some of these guys are just doing so well, is they're just being so openly, unapologetically themselves, and they stand for something and they have a mission, and they just like they keep sharing their big vision, and they keep sharing like what they truly want, and then they're just like constantly relating to what it feels like to be in and everyone is just like yes, you know. But you don't have to be a Gary Vee. You can do it in so many different areas. Who is your person? You know, who are those people that you want in your life? So yeah, I think the hard part for people is like dealing with rejection and dealing with people who like don't like them or say that they're doing the wrong thing. I just like I couldn't care less about that anymore. But I know what it felt like.
Yeah.
I know what it felt like to like not want people to say bad things on my posts or not believe in what I believe and all that. So I get it. But when you get over that and realize your life is going to be so much better when you are honestly yourself and attracting those people, and who cares if old friends like start moving away or people don't like what you're talking about, because now you have this amazing friends group that resonates with you. It's a soul family. It's not like a, just blood family or just friends because you grew up with them. Yeah. Like they're at a soul heart level with you, and you can't replace that. Like I can be more friends with someone after 3 days who's on my level and than someone I've been friends with for 20 years. Yeah. That I'm barely friends with because we almost don't even know each other.
Yeah, I got that the first time we met, actually. Yeah. I could feel like, okay, yeah, that's
it happens constantly, right? And that's like at my villa here, there's constantly people coming through, so many amazing,
a lot of
incredible...
them in Bali.
Yes, totally, because this is my tribe,
And we talked quite a bit about success and having a successful life. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, well, I think we already kind of went into it to some level, but it's aligning with your values, aligning with your truth. Like I don't think happiness is the goal. I think like fulfillment and meaning is the goal, which can bring happiness. Might not, Like if you look at Elon Musk, he's probably not just smiling all day long, but he's got such a meaningful, purposeful life of responsibility. Yeah. And Jordan Peterson is constantly talking about this, and I really resonate with it. My goal is not to just smile all day. Yeah. That's great. If that comes too, awesome. And I love having good times, and I love being fun. If you watch my Instagram stories and stuff, I'll be doing funny characters, and I like to add in funny because this kind of is a cosmic joke to some level as well. But at that same level, like you have to like really find something that you're willing to die for and live for it. Like what is that purpose? What is something beyond you that you can live for? And then find that, and then some days are gonna like feel like there's so much weight on your shoulders, and you're carrying people, and you have all this responsibility because now that you've upgraded yourself, you actually are responsible to help so many more people, and you're putting more pressure on yourself. But then when you lie down at bed at night, you don't like look at the ceiling wondering like, is this it? You say like, I'm out. Like, you know, I'm getting up the next day. I'm ready to go to battle again. So finding meaning and fulfillment and finding what your strengths, gifts, and talents are, finding out like how you can align yourself with your passions and your purpose and what you can help the world with and all that, to me, is like creating success. Money is just a medium of exchange. It's the lubrication between value forms. If it wasn't money, it would be something else that we would exchange value with. So money in and of itself is the lowest intrinsic value form that value can take. It's paper. But that means we have to find intrinsic value. How can you provide value to other human beings? And then, like Zig Ziglar said, the more people you help get what they want, the more you will get what you want. So now in my life, I'm like, how do I serve? How do I give as much value? How do I teach the things that I've gotten over the years? Like, how do I take the 1% of things that I've learned over the years that have made the biggest impact and share that with the world?
And so that's what you would say is kind of the impact you want to have in your life, empowering people.
For me, yeah, like upgrading minds for modern times. Like my favorite feeling in the world is just seeing that light bulb moment in someone's eyes when their brain lights up. And I've been working with psychology for so long now. I can press the buttons, I can tell the stories, I can create the metaphors, create those epiphany bridges, create that belief switch. And it's like, you see that person wake up from that like lower level of consciousness. That's just unbelievable to me. And then being able to give them that then makes them self-reliant to create their own freedom. You know, and freedom doesn't mean a place that you live. It's internal and external. You know, of course, if you don't have money, it makes life harder. So it's great to be able to learn how to exchange value so you can get money. If you don't have a lot of money, almost guaranteed it's because you're not exchanging enough value. So if you just look at it from that perspective, you just flip the equation. Not how do I go get money? How do I provide more value?
Yeah.
Like it's not a direct thing, because you can give a lot of value and not get paid for it. Just because you're going out and giving value doesn't mean people are handing you money. So you do need to learn how to communicate that value and then do an exchange of value. But if you have a lot of value for people and then you can communicate it to them, they will exchange their value, which is money, for your service, your products, whatever it is, and you can become very wealthy helping a lot of people.
I think that's a really good way to reframe it, especially around money, because I think in our collective consciousness there's a bit that feeling that rich people sometimes maybe took from the poor, you know, as it could be the case in the Middle Age, or as it might be the case in many cases. As it still happens. But there are also a lot of rich people. They're rich, like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. They're not rich because they took from other people, right? No. They just created a lot of value, and I feel that's the direction the world is going more and more.
Yeah, and I've just, over the years, I've come to realize most people that I meet that have earned a lot of money are such givers. And they are always trying to give so much value. Not all of them. Some of them are miserable. Lots of those people too. But the ones that I meet, it's a completely different, it's a misconception, because I think how the movies and I think how things portray rich people, it's to resonate with the main audience. And the main audience wants to believe that rich people got there by cheating, because then it takes away all the responsibility for themselves and why they're not there. It's a very insidious attack on someone else having something they don't have and being envious and jealous. So let's make up a story of why they're bad when it's just not the case. It can be in certain situations, but overall, it's usually just because they provided more value. Also, those people are providing those people's jobs. They're giving people work. Without entrepreneurs, other people don't have jobs, right? So like, it's a crazy mindset to think just because someone is rich, they're bad. Like, it's so crazy.
Of course.
So many wealthy people I know, they give so much to charity. They're constantly transcending past just success for self. How do I give? How do I give? How do I give? So I really hope people can shift their mindset and say, how do I get rich so I can give? Not how do I get rich so I can just drive Lamborghinis. If you want to do that on the side, go ahead. But how do I create as much value as possible, way more value than I can handle, so I can give so much? Because think about it this way. If you are making just enough money to pay your bills, you're being selfish. Because all you're doing is making just enough for you. You're providing just enough value in the world so you can live. Why not provide more value and give?
As you're doing.
Why not?
Thank you so much. And I'll have a last question because you talked about your near-death experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that comes up a bit in personal growth. Steve Jobs talks about it. Do you sometimes picture yourself just before your death?
No, not really. I don't really do those type of meditative exercises. I just like I do it in I guess in a different way where I just give myself like just massive like realizations of gratitude
Mm-hmm.
of like the fact that I'm here with like the thousands of levels of freaking passed on from generation to generation. The chance of my parents meeting their parents meeting that to like then accumulate into me. We are, each one of us are freaking miracles, like completely. None of us will ever exist the exact way ever again. So I look at that and I just think it's disrespectful to not take advantage of that. You know, like disrespectful to every generation that fought so long for us to finally be here at the most incredible time in human existence. So for me, I look at it more from that level of massive gratitude, and I can't just like do nothing with that. You know, if you have that realization, like how can you? Like, I feel so bad when someone can't see that.
Yeah, gratitude is so simple but so effective.
Yeah, but it's a meta level emotion. You can fear something without thinking about it. You know, you walk down the street, you fear. But gratitude, you have to think about being grateful. So it's a practice, and it takes consciousness. So you have to be conscious of being conscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to be able to be at that level. That takes development and meditation and doing it on a regular basis, so it becomes a habit. Then it becomes unconscious competence.
Okay, so what's your routine actually
For gratitude,
in general?
I don't have. You know, if you
Maybe the
I'm like
two,
Tim,
three things that are
I'm
most
like
important.
I'm like Tim Ferriss. If you were to look at my day, you'd be bored out of your mind, or a lot of time. But not bored. Like there's a lot of fun things that happen, but there's no exact structure. It's about what's the big domino, what's the thing that needs to get knocked over. But yeah, every day I'm definitely going to be at the gym. I'm definitely going to be studying. I'm definitely going to be reading books. I'm definitely going to be meeting with like certain people. But there's no exact from A to Z what I do. It's like what's that big domino, and that's like Tim Ferriss talks about that all the time. If you can focus on the high value activities, the details take care of themselves if you bring on the right people around you. So I'm not very detail oriented. I'm more big picture. So I need to focus on the prudent direction and the big things that need to happen. So there's a lot of things about you have to do this. Just find what works for you.
And what's your big project at the moment? Also, how can people follow you?
So you can follow me at Gavin Dantez, Dantez, not S. And that's on all social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So
lots of value.
Yeah, they can follow me there. My big project right now is like teaching people how to leverage their skills, become a teacher on their terms, to be able to live wherever they want, to be able to make the income they want, make global impact. And it's kind of the opposite of that traditional teacher, which is, you know, we look at it as someone who just teaches in a classroom, teaches a curriculum, teaches one way, teaches rote learning, information versus transformation. So that contrast between those two and taking people through that process so they can make 6-figure or 7-figure income teaching and living the life they want while impacting so many lives. It's obviously much more attractive than just teaching in a classroom. And some people will get mad when they hear that because they're going to be like, oh, we need teachers in schools. Well, why don't you change the system? Why don't you help these children learn a higher level education for the time we're going? Because I think those old teachers are part of the problem now. Because we're not 100 years ago anymore. We're now. The world's completely different. We don't need that old way of teaching anymore. We need new teachers who are part of the revolution.
Yeah, and you talk about that friend here in Bali, Anale. She's 12-year-old, and there's no doubt
she already dropped out of school.
Yeah, she wouldn't be.
That education would kill her. It would destroy her creativity. It would cut off her wings.
Yeah, because she's a 12-year-old entrepreneur. She has a conscious fashion company, and she speaks on stages. And I couldn't picture someone from the traditional education system being that advanced.
Yeah, it'd be very difficult. Very difficult. You know, you can still I still believe in all sorts of education, but I think we're so advanced now that we have to stop doing things the old way just because of bureaucracy and because that's how it is. It's a huge mistake, and it's going to keep crushing people's lives by the millions.
Yeah. And listen to the people who do it, because I know for myself, if I buy a course online for $2,000, people think I'm part of a cult or I'm being scammed when they spend like way more on traditional studies.
Again, it's envy and jealousy much of the time. They see what you're doing and they want to make it seem that way so they can't feel bad about themselves. When you start to realize that everything people do, or all the things people do, are to, avoid not being loved and not feeling embarrassed and not feeling ashamed and not feeling guilty, and you just go to the emotion and to the cause, then you realize this person's not trying to hate on me. That's not. It's an unconscious response to how they feel about themselves.
Like what you show them about themselves that they don't like.
And they don't even know what it is most of the time. It's a feeling. So they don't know what's going on. They feel it and they respond a certain way. So we have to be very accepting of people and focus on ourselves and realize people don't care as much about you as you think. Like we think all day about all these people thinking they're thinking about us all day when 99% of the time we're thinking about ourselves.
We're the center of our own universe.
We're in our subjective universe and we think so many things that just aren't how they are.
Thank you so much, Gavin. I feel like we could stay for hours, but we'll definitely do another one.
It's a little dark now. No, thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. As the tradition wants it, we'll finish with a big warm hug. Thank you to you, and thank you to everyone who took the time to listen. I hope you got as much value out of this as I did.
Thank you, brother.